franchise like a Houston Rocket, y'all. Me still loving that la la la. Them Blinks always loving that la la la.
Don Tony, look, could you get a shot of this car? Look at that. I'm out of here. It's freezing cold, but look at this car. Don Tony's car.
Basically, skip all the singing, let's get right.
Here's how the iTals roll, you know what I'm saying?
I be all over my knees like
sick of seeing you. That's the fuck. Show me the trunk. That's a wrap.
Get out of here.
AEW, Carmine taking over. We got the iTals with us. It's over. We don't care about no freaking juice heads that are running rampant. We're coming for the goal. We got the back champion in the world.
Next champ. Yeah.
What's up? The greatest Spanish MVP out there.
There he is, right there.
Anything else before you go? Fucking Bush too? Get out of here.
Get your ass out of here.
It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? You have no idea how close we came to not doing an episode tonight. I was adjusting my camera. I haven't touched the settings in about 3.5, 4 years. Totally forgot how to use the camera that I have set up over here. I pressed a button. I don't know what button I pressed. Next thing you know, everything goes black. This is about an hour ago. And for the last maybe 45, 50 minutes, I've been trying to read up online to see what setting I could have gotten wrong. But luckily, about 10 minutes before showtime, it popped back on the screen. I'm like, oh, thank you. Thank you. What's up, everybody? Sunday night, November 30th. Unbelievable. November is over. Tomorrow we begin December, the last month of 2025. How's everybody doing? For those who celebrated, hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Me, I spent it with family. Took it easy, not gonna lie. And we are right back in the swing of things. Yesterday was Survivor Series, War Games. Are they gonna go to 3 matches next year? I mean, you know, they take their time. You know, the matches are longer than what they previously were. When you compare Survivor Series to years past War Games, it just felt like a little bit more diversity was needed. I will tell you from my friends that I've communicated with Survivor Series, and I promised everyone that saw the teaser for tonight, there's 1,000 Survivor Series reviews online. This is not going to be one of them. I'm not going through match by match. I'm not going through this spot and what happened here, what happened there. You know, I will just tell you my overall thoughts about it. And a little bit later, we will give one of these away. This one will be given out on Patreon. They are brand new. And I have the plastic bags. It's just that if I show it to you in a bag, you're going to be like, I can't even see it. What does it look like? I got to tell you, man, shout out to somebody very, very special to the family out in Florida who sent me a little package of a bunch of Survivor Series stuff. We got other things we'll give away in the future, but I really made a fuss about these hats. I mean, I know they've gone up in price, but everything on it is stitched and stitched very, very well. This is a beautiful looking hat. And me, I'm an old school baseball fan, so I love the 84 Padres vibe to them. So I thought we'll give away one here live and we'll give away one on Patreon. And I thought, how do we give it away? I want it to be honest, unbiased. I don't want to pick any, people that, others are going to feel like, oh, he just picked him because he's a friend of the show or he's a subscriber. later on in the show, maybe about an hour in, I will do a contest. And we're going to do what we haven't done in years. Here in New York, every day, there is a 3-digit lottery drawing. Three numbers, lucky numbers. So they do one at lunchtime, I believe, and then they do one at night. So what we used to do in the past is when I say go later, don't do it now, everybody who's live in the chat posts a 3-digit lucky number. Whatever your first entry is, that's what I take. Some people try to change their number during it. And then that'll all be logged. The chat room is there. I can't change it. And then tomorrow night, for the evening lotto drawing, we will see what the lucky number was. And whoever comes closest to that lucky number will win. Some have asked me in the past, what happens if 2 people tie? Well, honestly, we haven't had that happen, but if it does, whoever posts it first gets it. So, look, I'll tell you very briefly a couple of things about Survivor Series War Games. First and foremost, I loved this story. For those that don't know the story behind this picture, if you look at Charlotte Flair's outfit for War Games and you look at the girl that's like 7 years old that she's given a fist bump to, it kind of looks like the same design. And that's because it was. This seven-year-old little girl has some type of brain tumor, and she's very, very sick. And Charlotte Flair had her gear made up in tribute to this little girl. And, you know, I tell you, you look at the past with Charlotte Flair, I never thought that she was an asshole. I mean, as far as on camera, I know we kind of got a little bit upset at the way she was always just thrust into the main event picture. But, you know, it just seems as she's getting older, she's getting much more of a direct connection with fans, you know. And yes, I've always brought up this phrase. Many people want to say hello when it's time to say goodbye. It's not time to say goodbye to Charlotte Flair yet, but I love that you're seeing more of Ashley, you know, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. Even Jay Cargill, we were talking about this on Patreon the other day. Jay Cargill is a full-blown heel right now. And if you follow social media, she's more interactive with her supporters than even before. You know, bringing back the baddies, even though I don't think they've ever left. So nothing wrong with showing, you know, your heart and being a heel, right? WWE, something you wouldn't do for Karrion Kross? I'm still blown away by that. You know, I remember earlier this year having a little bit of a conversation and, you know, WWE, like, not liking the fact that he was really, like, going all out and interactive and, you know, for people that are ill and going to see, like, I don't get it. And listen, I said this back then. I think they wanted to reserve that for a select group of people in that company, because at the very same time he was doing that, so was Drew McIntyre, and so was this person, and so was this person who were heels. But for some reason, when it came to him, it's almost like they were just trying to find a reason to fuck with him, you know? But, you know, since I brought up Patreon, I got to mention something. I didn't want to wait. I mean, I could have waited till Thursday's Patreon show to bring it up, but just in case this person happens to be watching, you know, our Patreon family is very, very intimate. It's small. And I appreciate everybody who is still supportive of what I do, members of the DTKC family over the years. And there's a few that are still around that were huge supporters of Kev and very, very critical of me. Not necessarily they want to see me fail, but just very critical. And on Thursday, I was talking about a commercial for WrestleMania that someone had sent me privately. And I explained in the commercial that, you know, Charlotte was in it, and Becky, and Jade Cargill, and Rhea Ripley. I said, Io Sky, Liv Morgan. I said, and I even said, I don't remember seeing Asuka in it. So because we were talking about what is going to be the teaser that they're going to reveal on Friday. Obviously, it was a WrestleMania teaser with the women. But when they aired it on Friday, Liv Morgan was nowhere to be found. So I got a pretty nice DM from someone Friday night, like, I don't believe you got any exclusive video. Liv Morgan wasn't even featured. Well, after Survivor Series and she made her return, they added an additional 5 seconds to it, and Liv Morgan is eating the olive from the drink. And then someone sends me this. And yeah, Asuka's not even featured in the picture. So for that person that thought I was lying, there's no reason for me to lie. There's no, like, no one is going to say, oh, I'm going to follow Don Tony because someone sends him stuff. That's nonsense. What am I, 12? So, to that person that was very, very critical, they were not going to show Liv Morgan having the martini olives until she actually made her return. By the way, love that she is back. I like the throwback to John Cena earlier this year when he turned heel and, she kicked him in the nuts. The punch in the face to Dominik is a little bit for how he was acting towards Roxanne Perez and other stuff. And that's all gonna, tie in together soon. I will tell you this, and I didn't want to jump ahead, but it's a good way to segue into it. Ronnie had sent this a few minutes before we went live, and he says, "Happy Thanksgiving. A favor to ask." Wait a minute, that's not right. Wait, it's not coming up. Oh shit! Look at this. Look at this. The super shout outs are not coming up. Oh, that's lovely. Well, I could read them. Let me see if I could get this. Hang on a second. That really sucks. Okay, let me see if this works now. Oh yeah, it does. Okay. For those who are thinking that there's doom spelled, oh, there you go. Glitches. All right, Ronnie says, that was last week's comment before. I knew it was old. Do you see Liv turning on Dom? Is she the favorite to win the Royal Rumble? If not, what would you do with Liv at WrestleMania? And did I win the predictions contest? I think I did. I haven't checked the results of the predictions contest yet, so I don't know who won. I will announce Patreon Thursday, and I'll announce channel members on YouTube probably tomorrow because there wasn't that many entries. But do I see Liv turning on Dominik? No. And I'll tell you why. And I think a lot of you out there are going to agree with me on this. WWE has suddenly gotten themselves into an interesting situation. Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, Jimmy Uso and Naomi, Dominik, even though they're not a real life couple, Dominik Mysterio and Liv Morgan. If they wanted to, Finn Balor and Roxanne Perez. Who else? I'm leaving one person out. Shit. Oh, if you really want to push it, Aleister Black and Zelina. AJ Lee and CM Punk. All of a sudden, they have some very interesting, not mixed tag couples, but even if you just want to focus on the ones that are quote unquote married, I see WWE thinking, we got money down the line. CM Punk and AJ Lee versus Liv Morgan and Dominik Mysterio. I think they're going to keep them together because they see a couple of pairings that could be substantial money. Look at Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch once Seth returns. I mean, the challenge that will be keeping the interest of Dominik and Liv Morgan as a cohesive unit going into the spring and summer of 2026. Because Seth Rollins, if he returns, as he said on that interview the other day, possibly April, and that would be in time for WrestleMania. You're not going to suddenly thrust, those two into Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. So I think they see some opportunity to have Dom and Liv team up and have some, premium live event, mixed tag matches. We'll see. But I think that's something that they are planning. What else did you say? Do I think she's the favorite to win the Royal Rumble? Look, we said it last week. As soon as Roman Reigns made that little teaser to CM Punk, mostly CM Punk's way, a little bit to Cody, Roman Reigns has become the front runner to win the Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber next year. I thought it was so cute. To some of those wrestling news sites out there that waited until after Survivor Series and the outcome to say, my sources tell me that the matches that WWE are planning for WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns 3 and Braun Breaker versus CM Punk. Your sources told you 5 minutes after Survivor Series ended. Right after you see Braun Breaker pin CM Punk, suddenly your sources have breaking news, Bafangul. You're giving me agita. The fuck out of here. What are we, fucking dumb? Retarded? So nobody's got that. If you had it, you would have posted it before Survivor Series and run the dice, pun intended, for the WrestleMania theme. So I would say it's a little too soon for Liv Morgan as far as the favorite to win the Royal Rumble, because the titles can change again between now and then. So, I do think Cody and CM Punk are very, very, very likely to keep their championships. But on the women's side, it's up in the air. Plus, you got to think about injuries. Bianca Belair, she's been out for a substantial amount of time. What if she comes back and gets red hot? Rhea Ripley has been injured more than I think people realize. Liv Morgan has been injured more than I think people realize. An injury could turn shit upside down. So I say it is too soon to say that Liv Morgan could be the favorite to win the Royal Rumble. And if she doesn't win the Royal Rumble, she could win the Chamber. But I do believe she will be one of the Final Four. You have to tease that to the Final Four. And if you don't have her fight for a championship at Mania, what do? Maybe you do a mixed tag. Maybe you do Dom and Liv versus a couple at WrestleMania. That might even be an easier way for Seth Rollins. I mean, Seth Rollins makes his return. If it's right around April, you're not going to have a lot of time for a buildup for him to fight Breaker or somebody else to get revenge. So, plus we're not even assured that Seth Rollins will be a babyface when he returns. So I say it's a little bit too early to start speculating for Liv Morgan. And no, to that person, I don't believe they're going to do mixed tag titles in WWE. You have it in AAA. It's a nice, fun little thing to do. I don't think that is necessary outside of it. Before I go any further, I got to share with you guys something, because I want to close a page over here. You'll get a laugh out of this, just to show you how up to date I am with hip hop. This is going to be funny. So, last night I'm watching Survivor Series. Didn't take many notes. I like watching it as a fan. I like sitting there, enjoying myself, not sitting there and trying to type notes for each match, and this went down, and this went this, and this little comedy skit, and this cool thing with the chains, and this and that. And, you spend more time trying to do that. And then if you fall a little behind, it kind of fucks things up. I just like to sit back, relax, have a little bit of popcorn and watch it. And that's what I did. So yesterday there was an incident with Paul Heyman. And he was standing side by side with Logan Paul. Now, just to show you how of an expert I am in the hip-hop world, for everybody who has access to video, that if you look on your screen right now, this popped up on my news feed. It was an article that says WWE manager Paul Heyman shoves young boy while leaving War Games with Logan Paul. So I saw that article and I immediately started searching online. All right, this is a legitimate article. It's on People Magazine actually put this out. I don't know if you, maybe I could show you the top of it. I really can't, but it's People Magazine. This is definitely People Magazine's website. So they put up an article, Paul Heyman shoves young boy while leaving War Games. So me, and you could all laugh at me for this one, I'm thinking young boy is some fucking hip hop artist from California. You know, because you know a lot of the fucking names now. So I start going on Google and I'm like, Paul Heyman, young boy video. And nothing comes up. And I'm like, People Magazine, you know, I could see these jerk offs that, you know, work for Forbes and Sports Illustrated and ESPN. I mean, you know, if you're an intern, if you know if your IQ is 10, and you're a wrestling fan, you could work, especially for nothing, and then you put it all over your profile. You're a journalist, which you're not. We've been dealing with that for 25 years. But People Magazine usually don't clickbait. So I'm looking for about 10 minutes, and I'm like, how come this video's like not around? Like, I want to see who so I start Googling, and I'm Googling young boy, and I'm getting all these weird responses, and I'm like, something's not adding up here. Lo and behold, I find out that young boy meant a kid, not a hip hop artist. So me, like a moron, I'm thinking that Paul Heyman shoved the next Travis Scott, and I'm like, oh, motherfucker, we got another fucking rapper, hip hop. I don't care if it's country music. I don't care if it's, we got another musical artist that's about to fucking get involved with WrestleMania. I'm like, oh God, please no. And then I was like, whew, thank God Paul Heyman shoved a kid. Did you ever think that would be a problem? Thank God Paul Heyman shoved a kid and not some fucking aspiring hip-hop artist named Young Boy. Yo, Young Boy in the house. Yes, you could laugh at me. But I will tell you something else. I'm going to share something with you all tonight. Something that I promise you will get a kick out of. You'll appreciate it. Lately, Devon Dudley has been all over the news coverage, as Bret Hart, but we'll address Bret Hart in a minute. And then I'll get into your questions. Devon Dudley's been in the news lately because he brought up a claim that 30 years ago, Jim Ross said to him that he doesn't like him because he's black. Now, I don't know Jim Ross personally, so I don't know what's true and what's not. I don't know how it was said. I don't know if it was just, interpreted. I don't know. I really don't know. All I know is that, if you're black, especially if you're from the South, being judged on your color, especially negatively, hurts you 1,000 times more than it would just a regular insult. And about 20 years ago, something happened with New Jack that back in the day, yours truly, Kev Castle, Joey 924, Black Moses, and the Mass Maniac had an exclusive. And it was New Jack talking about a racist incident that happened with somebody who actually got our shows on the internet back in 2004, podcasting. When we say that we were the pioneers in podcasting online, we were doing it in 2003 online. And that was Chris Cash. And there was a racist incident that happened with New Jack and Chris Cash. And the day after it happened, the Mass Maniac called me up and he says, hey, could we do a special episode? And I'm like, for what? He says, New Jack wants to come on. He wants to tell everybody what happened. It was a very big story at that time. I had the audio and it's been lost. I couldn't find it anywhere. Lo and behold, about 2 weeks ago, I put up about a dozen retro episodes of the DTKC show Minority Report from 04 and 05. And I said, okay, let me start getting into 06. So back then we didn't have too many synopsises. we would just post the episode and that's it. So I don't know what's on these episodes. But some, I did do a synopsis. And I found one from 2006 where I did the synopsis, and lo and behold, it says, exclusive, our rare audio with New Jack talking about Chris Cash. And I was like, holy fuck, I do have the audio. So I capped 7 minutes of it, and I'm going to share with you later. And the reason why I'm sharing with you is because you will hear straight from New Jack what happened with this white Texas punk, going racial on him. But not only that, if you listen to New Jack talking about how much he hates, as far as being called the N-word, he explains it in a way that I don't think you've ever heard New Jack explain it before. And while you're hearing it, think about what Devon Dudley said. And, I know people were going after Disco Inferno because Disco Inferno was like, I'm not going to judge someone 30 years later and this and that. And I don't think Disco had said anything wrong. I think what he was trying to say is, look, people change over the years. I'm not going to comment on something that happened 30 years ago, whatever. He said it was terrible, fine. But what I did find interesting is that when something like that happens, it stays with you for your lifetime. It stays with you for your lifetime. And it's obviously stood with Devon, and it stood with New Jack, and he says some powerful shit that I think you absolutely would want to see here. So we'll do that later on in the show. I do want to say one last thing before I get into your questions. And I'll mention a couple of other things about Survivor Series. This obsession that the media world has gotten about Bret Hart, saying that Vince McMahon and Shawn Michaels are lovers. That story is the reason why we're going to make our presence known a lot more in 2026. Because when I saw that story, number one, I've been doing wrestling hotlines and podcasts since 1997. And I remember clearly back in the 90s, the mid-90s, when Shawn Michaels posed for Playgirl, there was a buzz going around that Shawn Michaels was bisexual. All right, some people thought he was gay. In fact, there's 1 or 2 episodes of Monday Night Raw when Shawn Michaels would come out, and this is before the Attitude Era, and you see fans holding signs that says Shawn is gay. Was he gay? It's none of my business. Was he bisexual? Was none of my business. But a lot of people back in the day thought that Shawn Michaels was giving Vince the favors because Vince was bending so over backwards for someone who was immature, who was abusing, in a lot of different ways. And, how do you tolerate that? And Bret Hart has a very, very dry humor. And I watched podcast after podcast after podcast after podcast, all with these catchy thumbnails and reactions. Oh, Bret Hart says Vince and Shawn, they gay lovers. This person looking like a fucking guppy. Oh, man, do you need money that bad? Do you want this hat? Maybe you could sell it on eBay. I mean, Ben from G-Town, who's one of our loyal patrons and also hangs out in the chat rooms here, he wrote in questions on Thursday's Patreon, he goes, is it just me? But why is everybody taking Bret Hart literally? It sounded like he was cracking a joke. It's exactly what it was. It was dry fucking humor. And everybody's with these front page headlines to fucking Stevie Richards to Stevie Wonder, gay lovers. Oh my God, man. When I watched the last 7 days, I'm like, man, maybe I'm just too far behind on YouTube, but we got to start addressing a lot of this bullshit. Maybe we should have a new show called Bullshit and just address all the bullshit. Oh, of course, Bret Hart is bitter. Bloody Money, I agree with you. Bret Hart is very bitter. He is bitter that his career was taken away from him way too soon. He's still bitter about losing, his brother to a tragic accident. Bret Hart had a stroke, maybe more than one. Bret Hart has a lot of reasons to be bitter. I think, and this is probably the most important thing I want to say about this topic. If I wouldn't have said this, I would have literally slapped myself in the face after the show was over. I'm not kidding. I would have literally slapped myself in the face. For every single one of you that are tired about Bret Hart complaining, and I mean this sincerely, to every single one of you who are tired about Bret Hart complaining, for every single podcast out there that thinks that Bret Hart is losing it, for every single person that's doing shows that says, well, Bret, just shut the fuck up. Here's my answer to every single one of you. Tell these fucking other shows to stop asking those questions. Keep those call out those hosts, call out the podcast, call out the shows that keep bringing them on and keep asking them the same shit over and over again. Because as far as I know, I don't remember recently going on YouTube and seeing Bret Hart in his bedroom on a fucking webcam going, hey, what's going on, everyone? Best there is, best there is, best ever will be. Fuck you, Bill Goldberg. I'm here, I'm talking, and let's talk about wrestling. Fuck you, Bill. Fuck you, Vince. Vince and Sean, they fucking. Like, I don't recall Bret Hart going on YouTube, going on Twitch, going on TikTok, going on a fucking iPhone and like, hey, I'm just walking my dog. I just want to wish everybody a pleasant morning. Almost like the Iron Sheik, like, I hope everyone has a pleasant morning, except for you, Bill Goldberg. Like the Iron Sheik used to say, fuck you, motherfucker. Like, Bret Hart is not going out there and fucking just throwing this shit out there. He keeps getting paid to do it. Shows after shows after shows keep bringing his ass on. If you're tired of Bret saying all this stuff, then stop fucking asking him this stuff. Am I wrong? Please tell me if I'm wrong. He is bitter, absolutely, but not for nothing. When he sees the PayPals come in and the Venmos, he's like, I'm bitter, but at least this guy gave me $100. He's making money off of it. All right. A couple other things about Survivor Series. We got every prediction right, except for Jimmy Uso turning on Jay. I hope, and I mean this sincerely, I hope that we find out down the line that WWE originally was going to turn Jimmy Uso heel against his brother, but then realized we've kind of like jumped the shark with Jay. So whatever he does, we got to bring the Usos back. And I hope that WWE called an audible and it's like, listen, he's main event Jey Uso. Jey Uso can main event any card, anytime. I have no issue with that. But Jay is better with Jimmy. That promo that they cut last Monday, I thought it was in the Twilight Zone. I'm like, Jay just cut his best promo in 2 years. So I hope that WWE changed that idea because they feel that, they're a Hall of Fame tag team. Some people call the greatest tag team in 20-something years. Some people say of all time. Whatever. But I hope they change that. But everything else we nailed. A lot of people were very surprised that Dominik Mysterio won the championship back. Again, if I would have been wrong, I would have been wrong. But I just did not think Gunther, getting the Intercontinental Championship back just so he can increase his percentage of how long he's been a champion on the main roster, to me, it's a step backwards. I just felt that Dominik Mysterio would regain it. In San Diego, it kind of writes itself. You saw how over he was. He got a key to the city on Saturday. Never thought that John Cena would go into his final match as the Intercontinental Champion. It was short-lived, but no pun intended, short-lived. But, the thing is, he's now a Grand Slam champion. It's an extra little stat to add on to his illustrious career. And in the process, John Cena has not necessarily passed the torch to Dominik. I think Dominik would turn around and shove a chicken finger up your ass and be like, I don't need no torch passed to me. But we're going to look back 10, 20 years from now, and you're going to compare how Triple H had John Cena go out and how Vince McMahon had Kurt Angle go out. Kurt Angle loses to Baron Corbin. John Cena loses to Dominik Mysterio. And John Cena wrestled 3 of his final 4 matches against Dominik Mysterio. That it just goes to show you you could see the difference there. And I think it's an awesome thing to see. There would be so much focus on a championship if John Cena had his final match against Gunther. People be like, oh, he's going to retire as a champion. No, Gunther's going to win the belt. Why have that distraction of a championship match involved? Last match. That's it. Final match. All the focus is on the final match. And I was very satisfied with that. Stephanie Vaquer beating Nikki Bella. I don't think there was any surprise there. Nikki Bella, I mean, I almost want to check my blood work to see if maybe I'm a little under the weather. But, I am not a Nikki Bella fan. Never was. I mean, you think back to 20 years, 15 years of doing shows, whatever it was. No, it's got to be 15 years, not 20. She ain't around 20 years. But I'll say this. She didn't come back just for a little fluff and because she wanted to get her mind off of a bad divorce. She definitely has put in the work. And, it's much harder now because she's got to keep up with the talent of today. And the matches of today are much different. Now, Nikki Bella's not going to get a 4-star match ever unless she's in a video game. And you kind of like have her use I don't know, Jordan Grace's move set instead of her own. But she definitely has taken this seriously. And I give her credit. If she didn't have another match after yesterday, would I miss it? No. But I can't criticize it. I think she's definitely backed it up. And she still looks good. I thought it was fair. As far as the men's and women's War Games matches, other than Braun Breaker pinning CM Punk, nothing really surprised me. Io Sky doing the garbage pail move, I think we should stop that because are we just waiting until she kind of falls like a bad cartoon? Not for nothing. This isn't like a little kid falling from a second floor window that weighs 20 pounds. That some fucking guy's outside oh, look, a kid, and catches him. Sooner or later, you can't, it's just science. It's just, physics. Are you waiting for something to go wrong? That's it. We've had too many garbage pail spots. We've had too many bloodline dominant matches. This is 4 years in a row now, I think, that the bloodline has been featured. Just sub Sami Zayn with Cody Rhodes and sub, a Fatu with Cody Rhodes, with CM Punk. You know what I mean? It's enough. I mean, I'm tired of the bloodline being involved, especially when, it's nice to see Roman Reigns and everything, but what's going to happen now? Is he going to go away again for a month or two? Is he going to say, I told you guys, I don't want to see you until Christmas? I'm getting a little bit tired of it. One thing I said in the predictions last week, outside of Dominik Mysterio regaining that championship, the one thing that I kept saying actually 2 things I kept saying repeatedly, is Becky Lynch is the one that needed to lose. Because Becky Lynch, unhinged, is the best Becky Lynch right now. And having Nia Jax lose, it makes no sense. Having Lash Legend lose would be absolutely ridiculous right now. Having any members, even Kairi Sane when everybody predicts Kairi Sane to be the one getting the pin, that's when you know that Kairi Sane is not being used as good as she should, because you shouldn't automatically think that. Becky Lynch, saying, I set up this team and she disappoints everyone. She's the one that needed to get the loss. So I'm glad that happened. But more than anything, Drew McIntyre needed the fucking win. Out of everything we said in predictions last Monday, Drew McIntyre needed the win. I mean, Drew McIntyre lost multiple War Games matches. And the last time he was the hired gun with the Judgment Day, he lost on that one. He lost the last one or the 2 years before, and he lost. No, Drew McIntyre needed this fucking win. Didn't have to be the one to get the pin or the submission, but he needed to get this victory. It's about time, and I'm glad that he got the victory. So, the event was very predictable. It was decent. It was good. I certainly would not have paid the amount of money that people paid to go see this. For a night out, sitting in the boondocks with family was still somewhat reasonable. And you had a few, surprises. And obviously going into Monday night, which we'll know 24 hours from now, who is the masked guy. I think for most of us, we've narrowed it down to two. And I'll tell you why I think we have to narrow it down to one. Most people narrow it down to either LA Knight or Austin Theory. The reason why I say it's got to be Austin Theory is because LA Knight is still in this You Can't See Me tournament. Isn't he taking on Jey Uso? So to unmask and then he takes on Jey Uso, I think it would be kind of stupid. I think it should be Austin Theory. I don't think it was Montez Ford. I mean, listen, let's be honest. We've had people, dress up and or let me say it like this. We've had reveals in the past where somebody unmasks and then you look back at some of the teasers and the height is off a little bit. This person was a little shorter than Montez Ford, I think. Definitely skinnier than Angelo Dawkins. And plus, I don't see putting Montez Ford in the vision as a way to escalate his career right now. I think you're kind of forced to keep the Street Profits together. For now, I think Austin Theory has to be it. Why do they still have him under the payroll? Like, it feels like you waited till this moment. It doesn't feel like they waited until this moment for LA Knight to show up and, deck CM Punk. It doesn't seem to click for me. Could it be someone entirely different? Absolutely. Could it be someone from NXT? Absolutely. But I think if this is not Austin Theory, with all due respect, release him. Release him. Let him work for another promotion. Let him work indies. Let him build up what he's worth. I truthfully believe that WWE still sees a lot of investment in Austin Theory. Austin Theory, I think, has a huge future in WWE. The stuff with Grayson Waller, it's a shame how it ended very flat, and injury didn't help either. But, they have kept him around because they feel it was worth the investment. I think you have to pull the trigger now. If Austin Theory is ready to return, which most people believe that he is, he has to be the one. He has to be the one. No one else really would, maybe it's Travis Scott. I'm just joking, man. I think Austin Theory should be it. Some people thought for a second it was Seth Rollins. Trust me, Seth Rollins with that rehab to the shoulder is not going to be fucking climbing the cage. That's not Seth Rollins. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully they do the reveal tomorrow. They have to. In fact, if I'm WWE, I'd open the show. Masked wrestler in the middle of the ring. No one else out there. Unmask it. You got to remember, my friends, this is Netflix. This is not, we need to maximize hour 2 or the beginning of hour 2. They calculate the views for the entire week. When you see, and it's a shame to see Dave Meltzer again, getting into the weeds about the Netflix numbers, and now Nick Lopiccolo, of Paradigm is basically taking him to school. I mean, that's why I got to be honest with you, I couldn't resist but to, put Dave in the thumbnail tonight. I had to figure out a way to do it. The best way I could do it is put him in the garbage can. The Garbage Pail Kids. I think that's what we should call Brian and Dave from now on, the Garbage Pail Kids. But the thing is, he still thinks that the live numbers are fudgy with no evidence to back it up. The only evidence he originally had was a formula. And it took this Polak here, I'm pointing to myself, it took this moron, me. I don't think I'm a moron, but it took me to fucking explain it. In 300 characters, I might add. I didn't need no YouTube clip. I didn't need to look like a guppy, or that frown face like I smelled shit. I literally, in 300 characters, put it to bed, and then it kept going and kept going. And as soon as I brought up the fact that, my niece works for a big advertising company in New York City, which we've talked about way before WWE ever went to Netflix. And suddenly the conversation died. It ended. And I was like, people like, you won. I'm like, it's not a matter of winning an argument or not. It's just hopefully someone understanding now how it goes. And you could see it went in one ear and out the other, because now he's like, if you believe that the numbers are, I'm like, why are you sticking to that? Just let it go. Netflix is not committing fraud. If they want to commit fraud, they could take some of the bigger shows out there and fucking fudge those numbers even more and make it seem like that, these other shows are getting 15 million, views instead of 10. Like, how much do you think WWE benefits or Netflix benefits by just adding a couple of 100,000 hours of programming? That may sound like a lot, but when you have 2.4 million people tuning in and you just run 5 minutes over, that's 10 million minutes more watched. And divide 10 million minutes into hours, and then you realize, it's not the numbers that he thinks that it is. But, the bottom line is, with Netflix, it doesn't matter if Austin Theory unmasks at 8 o'clock, at 8:59, at 9:59, at 10:10. It doesn't matter, because they accumulate the numbers for the entire week. Sure, you have advertisers, some that want to be featured live, prime time, but you have other advertisers that are going based on the total views for the entire week. I'm guaranteed 5 million hits. If I get two advertisers, two commercials during the show, I'm guaranteed on average 5 million views, 5 million views. And it doesn't matter what time during it happened, because remember, my friends, and this is the most important thing about the ratings, I think a lot of people forget, many more than 2.4 million people watch Raw. The thing is that Netflix calculates the total length of the show. So if let's say a Raw episode is 2 hours, I watch an hour, you watch 30 minutes, your sister watches 30 minutes, all right? Cumulative, we watched the whole 2 hours. 3 different people added up to 2 hours. When Netflix goes to advertisers and says 2.4 million people, that doesn't mean that 2.4 million people watched Raw. More than that watched Raw, but 2.4 million people watched the entire 2 hours. So we guarantee that you put your commercial on our show one time, you're guaranteed on average 2.4 million views. What happens if I watch the first half hour and I'm like, oh, this sucks? And then you watch the first hour, you're like, oh, this sucks. And your sister watches the first half hour, oh, this sucks. All three of us watch 2 hours of Raw. But I only watched a half hour, you watched an hour, and she watched a half hour. And if we all saw the beginning of the show and a commercial airs during that first hour, well, guess what? That commercial was shown 3 times to us, and yet we only watched 2 hours total. See how it works? It's not hard. It's not hard. There's no conspiracy here. All right. Is there anything else I wanted to bring up? Braun Breaker and CM Punk at WrestleMania, and saw a few of you talking about that. I could see that possible. It is very possible. You know, I don't know if that'll happen, though. I think many people are just based on the emotion of what happened last night. Just because CM Punk got pinned from Braun Breaker doesn't mean suddenly that that's WrestleMania. It could be Royal Rumble. It could be Saudi Arabia, which is Royal Rumble. Forget that. You know, it could be anything. I mean, it doesn't have to be that. You know, for all we know, they could plan on doing something later on in the year. It's a little premature to go that far with this. Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something if Braun Breaker fought CM Punk at WrestleMania, and because Braun Breaker put Seth Rollins on the shelf, Seth Rollins returns and costs Braun Breaker the championship, and CM Punk retains, and then you almost feel like AEW booking with Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland side by side. You burn my fucking house down. Yeah, we'll team up. You know, like, I hopefully, I don't want to see that. That's why I'm not so sure if I would do the way that happens. And if Seth Rollins were to help Braun Breaker win at WrestleMania next year, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, well, that was kind of stupid. So, David says he wouldn't pay ESPN $30 a month for lousy premium live events. I've paid the $30 the last 2 months by force because I wanted to watch the events, WrestlePalooza, and now this one. I want to cancel the membership, but you know, I do want to watch these events. I have been too lazy to find illegal streams online. You know, back in the day, that was a happening. 10, not even 10 years ago. I remember the early days of AEW. We would hang out in those fucking foreign chat rooms. A lot of you too. And we all watch AEW pay-per-views for free, you know, and that's only been about 5-6 years ago, but I haven't looked lately. I don't know if they're still around. I know that one free streaming service, I don't remember what country they were coming out. They had that big bust last year. It's like a year or two ago, where they shut down all the servers and everything. And like, they were costing hundreds of millions of dollars to companies. That was a big deal. But they weren't going to arrest anybody who took part in the streams. That's like busting a whorehouse and you arrest all the prostitutes, but you don't arrest the customers. You know, it's pretty much the same mindset. So Scorpio says they're still out there. I got to go look. So remember when we used to have the Discord? We used to share the screen, have the illegal stream, share the screen, and everybody watches for free. I stopped doing that because I don't want the Discord channel to get shut down. I spent too much work trying to upgrade it and revamp it. If that got shut down, then, you know, I don't think I would start another one. So, all right. What time is it? 9 o'clock? Yeah, we'll wait. We're going to only go 2 hours tonight, so we'll wait a few minutes, but we'll get that contest very, very shortly. Next 10 minutes or so, we'll give away one of these Cena hats. And it doesn't matter where you live. If you live outside the United States, I'll ship it internationally. You know, just may take a few extra days. So, let's see what questions we got here. Big G says he thinks Braun takes this title at the Royal Rumble. Sammy wins the Rumble, challenges Braun. Punk wins Elimination Chamber. challenges Cody at Mania. It's not a bad idea. I'd listen, Sami Zayn. I don't know do they postpone Sami Zayn for another year? I think so. Remember, Sami Zayn, that's one of the WrestleMania payoffs they want to do. And I still think that's possible. Don't forget, my friends, Royal Rumble is in Saudi Arabia. Not only is it going to be fun watching 30 women all wearing full-body outfits, that ring's going to smell like perfume and ass after, 30 minutes. But Sami Zayn, remember the discussion earlier this year? Sami Zayn, he wins the Royal Rumble in fucking Saudi Arabia. You're going to see people crying in the audience. And I think that is still very, very possible. Let me put it this way. He will be in the Final Four. You're not going to put Sami Zayn in that Royal Rumble and have him exit early. He, at minimum, is in the Final Four. And I think that is still very possible of him winning. It's a little too soon for us to speculate, but I got news for you, man. You could kind of feel this already. Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, and whoever else you want to put. We could have the Final Four in the Royal Rumble be fucking Bloodline. Right? Maybe this time around, Jimmy tosses Jey. I think we're starting to figure it out. Roman, Usos, and Sami. Final Four in the Royal Rumble. And then Jimmy screws over Jey, or maybe Jey does it to Jimmy again. Nah. Jimmy's going to be a father right around that time. So maybe Jimmy fucks over Jey, and then Sami tosses over Jimmy. Yeah, I could see that. And then it comes down to Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns. Final two. Some people are getting mad at me right now because it makes so much sense, but people don't want that. Oh my God, we're going to have the fucking Bloodline as the Final Four in the Royal Rumble. I think it's very possible. Very possible. Bloody Money says, Sam Roberts loves to say stupid shit. Sam Baldhead Roberts says Sami Zayn should shave his head and beard basically to reinvent his character. Shaving your head, shaving your beard is not going to suddenly change WWE creative. This is about WWE creative more than there's nothing wrong with Sami Zayn. Yesterday on the History Show, we revisited when Sami Zayn was still kind of militant Sami Zayn. And then when Mick Foley was the GM, and then he had that fucking match with the Jackass, and Sami Zayn reinvented, when he became Sami Uso. It's creative problem. See, with Sam Roberts, and I don't know if this is intentional. It's got to be intentional. Sam Roberts isn't stupid. Sam Roberts is on their panels. They fucking fly him to different countries to be part of their shows. You think Sam Roberts is going to rip WWE creative? No, he's going to talk about the particular wrestler that doesn't sign his paycheck. But what Sam Roberts, what he hopefully intentionally ignores because he gets paid from WWE, it's WWE creative that's the problem. It's not Sami Zayn. WWE creative is the one that is not doing much with him. They didn't do much with him in 2025. I don't care he got the United States Championship. Whoop-de-fucking-do. You think back to that storyline with Karrion Kross. I mean, as much as we supported and loved Karrion Kross, still do, Killer Kross. Kev, obviously, God rest his soul. We even were like, this is going nowhere. This is like 6 months of nothing. It's kind of like, you're trying to go to a destination that should only be 20 minutes long, and you're in the car for 2 hours, turn left. No, turn right. And then you realize you're like right back in where you started again, and it just, next thing you know, 2 hours go by, like, something's wrong here. And meanwhile, you're fucking McMahon Maps. You realize, it's the maps that's the problem. It's the creative that's the problem. It's not Sami Zayn, shave your beard, shave your balls. What is that going to do? What, Sam Roberts, you shaved your head and didn't fucking make you any better, with all due respect. Haps. I'm saying that lightheartedly. I don't hate Sam Roberts. I don't hate fucking Peter Rosenberg. It's, it's just not my gig. It's not, I have to say what I mean and mean what I say, whether it upsets people or not. I'm not going to suddenly turn into a brain dead moron because I can't upset the wrong people. David, yes, we did hear about Paul Heyman shoving young boy. Young boy. So, should we share the New Jack thing? How's this? We'll share the New Jack thing now, then we'll do the contest, and then we'll finish up with your questions. I wanted to bring this back because this is something that has not been online in 20 years. And this was something that I really wanted to find in the past and could never find it. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because what happened recently with Devon Dudley, making the accusations that Jim Ross, told him 30 years ago that he didn't like him because he was black or something like that. Ridiculous. Do I think it happened? Why would I think it didn't happen? It's a terrible thing to say. But, just to set this up, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I started doing my wrestling hotline in 1997. In 2002, and you go to Wayback Machine, check out my website, wrestling-news.com, you'll see it there. It was wrestleguide.com at the time. In 2002, we came up with the idea of taking the hotline and recording it into the computer and putting it on the net for everyone as a show. That's what we were doing in 2002. It wasn't even called webcast or podcast yet, but that's what we were doing. In 2003, someone by the name of Chris Cash, give him credit, a 20-something-year-old from Texas, came up with the idea that he was going to have a server and he was going to allow people to talk for 30 minutes, pay a fee, and he would put it online for everyone. So it was called Fan Talk Live. We were the first show or the second or third first shows that ever came on there. I think we paid $30 for 30 minutes back in 2003, and we would do our live streams. After about maybe a month, we realized 30 minutes was not enough, so we increased it to an hour. I think we gave them $50 for an hour, and I started recording them and saving them. And then, we realized we don't need Chris Cash. We could do this ourselves. And when you all hear the old Minority Report episodes I just uploaded, when you hear that intro and you hear about the new transformation and everything, that was us leaving Fan Talk Live. If you hear the intro, you hear Fan Talk Live, and I slow it down and we went on our own. So after 2000 and early 2004, we did everything ourselves, and the rest is history. I'm still doing it now. So that same Chris Cash had a podcast called The Voices of Wrestling. Him and Nick the Man of 1,000 Names, some of you may remember that we've had an intro where we made fun of them. Maybe I'll do that intro for Monday just for people to get a little refresher. So Chris Cash used to go around his school and brag that he had Eric Bischoff on his phone. He had Steve Austin's number on his phone. And we always thought that he was a little racist, and I'll tell you why. Some of those old episodes, while we're doing our show, he comes on and starts talking. He interjects in the conversation. We didn't ask him, but, whatever. He came on. And a couple of times he used the N-word. I have at least 2 episodes where he would always open for us. He would say, "This is the Minority Report." And then there was one episode where he's like, "We got white guys, we got Spanish guys, we got, there." And he said the fucking N-word. And Joey's like, "What?" And this is what we were dealing with. So we always knew Chris Cash was a little bit too comfortable with saying the N-word. So now New Jack is coming out with a DVD. This is 20 years ago. And New Jack would go on the Mass Maniac show. There's a lot of episodes with me and the Mass Maniac talking to New Jack. You've heard a lot of them. Hilarious shit. The one with Axel Rotten still makes people pee their pants. Those will be coming back up for everyone too. So New Jack, the guy who produced his DVD, told him to go on Chris Cash in the Voices of Wrestling. And, you know, he was going to make an appearance. Didn't happen. All we know is that the day it was supposed to happen, Chris Cash was online saying a lot of horrible stuff about New Jack. And we were like, this guy realized he's going to get his ass sliced if New Jack ever comes across him on a show. So the next day, we don't know what happened at that time, but the next day, the Mass Maniac calls me up and says, Ant, you know, get New Jack on the phone. You know, he wants to come on. And I'm like, you know, what's going on? He's like, something happened with Chris Cash last night. I'm like, okay. So I called New Jack up, connect him, and we recorded a special episode of the Mass Maniac show. And this was not even 24 hours after it happened. We were the only people that had this story. If you go back 20 years, you'll hear people covering it online. It was our show. So I want you to hear what happened, and then you'll hear New Jack talking about why the worst thing you could say to him is the N-word. The worst thing you could ever say. And he says it in a way that it'll make you understand why it still upsets Devon Dudley 30 years later about what was said by Jim Ross. Doesn't mean that Jim Ross is that way or he's changed his way. Has nothing to do with that. When you hurt in certain ways, it never leaves you. And I want you to hear this. This is pretty powerful stuff. This is exclusively from the Don Tony Kevin Castle show and the Mass Maniac show from about 20 years ago.
We have a very, very special guest. It is a friend of mine from my local temple, a devout follower of the Jewish religion, the one, the only, Mr. Rabbi New Jack.
What you talking about, Willis?
What you talking about, Willis? That's the best you could come up with.
What you talking about, Willis? What you talking about, Willis?
Listen, you made some headlines the past day or so.
Frank, I always make headlines. You know that.
Yeah, I know. But listen, the first thing, you went on this internet show, right?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, the guy that did my DVD, Mike Moody.
Okay.
All right. Okay, Mike did my DVD, and he set me up with this idiot wanted me to go in and promote the DVD. Well, I mean, I was against doing it because, Frank, I don't normally like to talk to these guys that got these bullshit internet radio talk shows or whatever.
Right.
Because they normally are like a bunch of fucking marks that has access to this shit. And that's all they are. They marks. So
right.
Mike Moody has guaranteed me that Jack the guy's legit, man. A lot of people listen to him. It's some fucking thing called Voice of Wrestling, whatever. I told Mike I didn't want to do it. And he just kept, no, Jack, it'll be a good thing, why, yeah, whatever. And I went on, and I was getting ready to do it. And this little motherfucker asked me, I mean, we was like within a minute of going live on the whatever, the air that he calls it, whatever the fuck. He asked me, would I be willing to go on the radio? No. He said, Jack, people around here bet me that I wouldn't do this. I said, do what? Would you have a problem with me? No. He said, what two words would make you mad? Or what two things could I do to make you mad on the radio? I told him, I said, don't call me by my real name. And I said, we're not going to play the end, we're not going to play the nigga game on the radio.
Right.
He said, oh, well, I mean, I thought it'd just be cool to, answer work. I said, to do what? To say the N-word. I said, I dare you. Okay? I said, I fucking dare you. And the more I thought about it, the more I really started to get pissed off, Frank, because he is a little white boy that probably lives at home with his fucking mother, You know, he ain't in the business. He's a fucking fan with access. Okay? So when I told him I wasn't gonna do it, and I just start shooting on the motherfucker on the phone, then because he had built it up and told all his so-called bullshit fans that I was coming on his show, and then at the last minute, when I decided not to do it to make him look like shit, he goes back on his radio show and started to talk shit about me. You know, New Jack ain't shit. New Jack ain't shit. New Jack's a coward. New Jack this, New Jack that. And I'm like, this boy is a fucking fan. He done probably paid either pay-per-view or paid to come see me perform live. He's a fucking probably early 20-year-old fucking little cocksucking little bitch. And it went from there to I called Mike with Trash Talk Radio and told him that I wanted to go on the air on his show to talk about the motherfucker. I wasn't going to let that shit just go unanswered like that. You know what I mean?
Now, what's this guy's name? Chris Cash? Is that who it was?
Yeah. Yeah. Some little white boy named Chris Cash with some bullshit-ass radio talk show thing or whatever, internet, out in fucking Texas. And he comes at me like, hey, can I call you the N-word? It'll be a work. And I was like, you have no fucking idea where you just went with me. You know, and I'm like, for real, Frank, I shouldn't even say it. But I told him, I said, if you ever in the same city or wherever I am and you see me because I don't recognize you because you're a fucking fan, I said, come up and introduce yourself so I can know who you are. You know, and I said, yeah, you go figure from there. Ain't nothing been done yet, bro, but I mean, I didn't appreciate that goddamn shit. Not one bit, Frank. I found no humor in it. None. You know, and I mean, bro, that shit made me so fucking hot last night, Frank. My fucking head was hurting. I had to pull over in the fucking car. Anybody that knows me and know where I'm from the South, number one. Okay? Being from the South, a black man from the South, you experience a lot of shit. Okay? Now, coming up in high school, we had to take black history. Okay? Well, with taking black history, it smartens you up to the kind of shit that white people did to black people back in the day when slavery was going on, even after slavery, you know what I'm saying? Even like now, you know what I mean? And to call somebody a nigga, that is like the lowest fucking word that you can, the lowest form of, that you could try to call somebody, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, right. I told that Chris dude, I said, I want you to get a dictionary. I said, don't look through it. Just lay it down on the table and get eye level with it and just look at how thick it is. I said, out of every motherfucking word in that goddamn book, you pick the one word will make me want to go and kill your fucking kids. I'm like,
and you know what, Jack? I think something that a lot of people don't understand with you is you're very non-racist.
Exactly. You know, they wanted me to do this angle in Jersey. I'm sorry, in Philly last week with that other promotion with Trent Abbott and Johnny.
Yeah, PWU.
Yeah, and the guy, the booker, whatever, he wanted me to do like the racist shit that we were doing back in Smoky Mountain before the
Who's that?
I'm not sure who the booker was. I'm just gonna say the book. And I said, I'm not doing that. And I went out there and I got in the ring and I started cutting the promo. I said, the promoters in the back, the bookers wanted me to do this fucking racial shit. And I said, let's be real about this shit. I got merchandise to sell. I got this, that, and that. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to come out here and piss y'all off when I take all this shit back home with me and look at it, sit up in the fucking corner and collect dust. I said, how many black people in here right now? It had to be like 5.
Right.
You know? I said, that is so cheap fucking heat until it ain't fucking real. I'm like, but if you really want to get me started, be not black and call me a nigga and I will fucking come see you.
Pretty powerful shit, right? Powerful. That little gem at the end, that was Pro Wrestling Unplugged, I think it was. That was Johnny Cashmere and Trent Acid's promotion. And that was 20 years ago and trying to do that. But, you know, I wanted to share that because, you know, one thing about New Jack, God rest his soul also, you know, he didn't hold back. He would tell you straight up. You know, no TMZ stuff, no, you know, just jumping the gun. He just tells you in your face exactly how he feels, good or bad. And, I thought that was extremely powerful. So it helps you understand a little bit more, especially, what happened recently with the controversy with Devon. When something like that happens, especially you're black, I mean, that sticks with you and it stays with you. I mean, I can't imagine how that must feel, but I just figured you probably all want to hear that. Now, the full episode from that DTKC show, that'll be up next week across all the platforms for nothing. So, but I wanted to put that out there. I didn't want to wait until I just dropped the episode next week. So you'll get the whole thing next week. There's a lot more to it. So, all right. So let's get into some of your questions. We'll get into a couple of super shout outs. And, you know what? You want to do the contest first? Let's do the contest. All right. This is how we'll do it. It'll be very quick. I will give away one of these brand new, the logo's still there, brand new John Cena hats. Got it courtesy of special someone in Florida. The bags are still here. I just took them out of the bag so you could see, that they were. So I'll give one away here and I'll give one away on Patreon. This is how we'll do it. Very simple. Don't do it yet. When I say now, in the chat, type in a 3-digit lucky number. 3 numbers, 187, 316, 111, whatever you want. Don't do it yet. Post a 3-digit lucky number. And we'll let everybody do it for about 30 seconds. It should only take you 2-3 seconds to type it. And then tomorrow night, I think like around 6-7 p.m. Eastern, here in New York, we have a daily lottery drawing. They do one in the afternoon at lunchtime and they do one in the evening. I will see what the drawing is in the evening, and whoever comes closest to that lucky number will win the hat. And then I'll announce the winner. Since we're doing this on YouTube, I'll announce the winner on my Twitter, @DonTonyD, and on YouTube. And you'll have like a day or two to claim it. Because if you don't claim it, then we'll give it to the next person in line that comes next closest. So again, just post a 3-digit lucky number. Don't post it yet. I will actually put in the chat room and I will put now as the start. And then I'll give everybody like a few second countdown and then we'll end it. And then we'll get into the questions and we'll call it. So get your numbers ready. So anything within my comments, we're going to put now and we're going to put stop, and that'll be it. So ready? And like I said, you have about 30 seconds. Anything posted under this comment, now. Post your 3-digit lucky numbers. Like I said, it should only take a couple of seconds. And then we'll announce the winner tomorrow night. So that'll be easy. And then we'll do the same thing on Patreon and we'll announce the winner on Thursday. So we'll let it go for a few more seconds. All right. This is your last chance, last opportunity. So, and listen, you get the hat, do whatever you want with it. Wear it, sell it, give it away, light it on fire, do whatever you want with it. So, all right. Last call. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All right. So it's documented, it's saved, and we will see. Good luck to everybody. See, that's how we keep it fair. There's no way for me to finagle. Trust me, if I could finagle a New York lottery, I would not be doing shows right now. So, all right, let's get into some questions. I see Ghetto wrote and Rolling Stone wrote, you're in. Don't worry, you're in. I got yous. No worries. Douche is asking, I see Killer Cross's match with Riddle and MLW 2 weeks ago. I saw some of it. I was very surprised on how dominant that match was. Obviously, I like both guys. Riddle, sometimes a little bit misunderstood, sometimes his own doing, make no mistake about it. But that was a match that I was very happy to see in MLW. Again, I still think Killer Cross has an opportunity to maybe go back to WWE next year. I think once we get through the WrestleMania grind and things start to calm down a little bit, I think it is a possibility. But, listen, you look at some other wrestlers, there's been some people brought back 2 and 3 times. At the end of the day, it's a business. But, the problem is if you come back, there's no guarantee that creative suddenly is going to have something spectacular for you. I mean, obviously the fan support is very important. I think WWE has changed a little bit over the year. I think WWE allowing heels to be a little bit more human online, if that's even the right way to put it. We've seen heel wrestlers go to Make-A-Wish and visit hospitals and do speaking engagements for years. I'm not saying that they don't. But now it seems like some people can just be themselves on social media that don't have to stay in character, especially when they're a heel, because even old school, heels can never interact with fans in a positive way. No signing autographs, no taking pictures, no shout outs, no nothing. That seemed to have changed a little bit. I feel like that's helped a little bit for a few. And like I said, we were talking about Charlotte at the beginning of the show. I mean, I don't think that she suddenly had an epiphany that she broke up with Andrade and suddenly she became this beautiful, nice person. People have said over the years that she's always been a nice person. It's just that side of her, either she purposely kept it very, very tight to herself, or WWE's allowing her to be a little bit more interactive. So, but still, that doesn't guarantee good creative for anybody. Riddle, though, I don't know if Matt Riddle comes back anytime soon in WWE. I don't know. See, some of what he was doing on the indies is a little bit character driven, but some of it also, it's perception. I don't want to put him in the same boat as Enzo, but I've always felt Riddle in some ways was getting a little bit of the Enzo treatment. Enzo, we ended up finding out that Enzo didn't do the horrible things that he was accused of, but it was just the overall lifestyle that WWE was not interested in. And, you see Enzo over the years, he's stood out of trouble. He's not a big partier, anymore at least. And yet still, the guy is so good on the mic and he actually could work. And yet WWE has no interest in bringing him back, which is pretty interesting. Just some people, they just you know what? Let's not reopen that. Could the masked wrestler be Chris Jericho? Yeah, if he was maybe 19 years old. Whoever that was, and listen, I'm not saying Chris Jericho's fat. Chris Jericho is bigger than he's perceived. Austin Theory is a big muscular guy too, but that was not Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho, I don't think he could be that rapido. Whoever this was has a lot of spring on their step. And listen, Father Time catches up to everybody. You become mortal. And Chris Jericho is up there in age. And Chris Jericho, it's few and far between that he could put out that kind of a match anymore. Climbing the cage as quickly as he did and do it, no. I still think Jericho has an excellent shot of returning to AEW, if he's ever left, if you want to use that term. Again, I see all the analysis of Chris Jericho the last bunch of months. The thing is, Dave Meltzer said, and I'm not discrediting him, he said that WWE promised him a retirement tour also. I would think Chris Jericho would not even need to be promised that. He has earned that opportunity. If Chris Jericho was going to retire soon, I think then, yeah, maybe back in the WWE. But AJ Styles is retiring next year. And you don't want every year to be like, who's going to retire this year? What retirement tour are we getting this year? I think that gets a little bit old. I still think Chris Jericho name-wise, unless Bryan Danielson is ready to fill that slot. A lot of people do not pay attention to the behind the scenes in AEW, but I've said for 4 years that Chris Jericho is the number 3 guy in that company. The number 3 person overall, not even just wrestling. Very, very important person behind the scenes for AEW. He leaves there, you cannot leave that void. Bryan Danielson would have to be the one, and I've been saying this for 3 or 4 months now. I think Tony Khan's a fucking billionaire. Tony Khan could offer Chris Jericho $50 million and say, the only way I'm giving you this money is you sign an NDA. You never reveal how much I gave you. I know that sounds ridiculous and it's not happening. My point is, how many of you out there, and I mean this, how many of you out there have ever bid on something on eBay and you overpaid for it because you really wanted to have it, you really needed it? Even if it's not a toy, even if you needed something for your house, you had an old appliance and they don't make it anymore and there was a part that you need and suddenly it popped up and you overpay for it because you know that you have to have it. There's nothing stopping Tony Khan to fucking overpay out of his asshole Chris Jericho. Even if Chris Jericho said, I want $10 million, does that really hamper Tony Khan? Is Tony Khan suddenly going to be this frugal businessman all of a sudden? Because, it's too much money. If Chris Jericho is that important for AEW and Chris Jericho wants that kind of coin, Tony Khan would pay it. I'm sure he has some limitations he doesn't want to be taken advantage of, but the guy's a fucking billionaire 10 times over. Giving someone an insane amount of money does not affect him at all. What's $1 for us is 100,000 for him. So it's not about the money when it comes to AEW. It's what Chris Jericho wants to do. If Chris Jericho wants to have one last run and feud with a couple of people in WWE and wants a retirement tour and truly thinks that, one more year and he's done, then he might be willing to go back to WWE. But again, this is nothing against Chris Jericho. He's one of my favorites of all time. I was a fan of his before he went to WCW. When that fucking multicolored Jericho-holic shirt came out in WCW, I was one of the first to ever own it. I was a gigantic fan of his. Loved the Thrill Seekers, but the point is, he goes to WWE, you're going to suddenly have other people jobbing to him. Like, you're going to suddenly start, catering to somebody who's in their 50s because he's retiring. Look at John Cena and his physique and how he could still move. And you look at Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho could still work a great match, but he ain't having the number of matches to that level like Cena. Cena, you can see he's putting on phenomenal performances. Jericho, that takes a lot out. I just don't feel WWE is going to cater like that for Jericho. You do a talking segment. He brings back the list. There's a lot of non-wrestling things that he could do. But is that going to increase ratings? No. Remember when Cody Rhodes came back? We all talked about it. Within 2 weeks, the ratings were right back to what they were before Cody Rhodes ever came back. Is he going to sell merchandise? Sure. But so are a ton of other people in WWE. Chris Jericho is not needed in WWE right now. If we're being honest, Chris Jericho is not needed. He's not in high demand. This noise online is a very small group of people. We're all Jericho fans, but after 1 week, people are going to be like, why is he jobbing? Why is this person jobbing to Jericho? He's fucking 50 something, 55, whatever it is. Like, you suddenly start realizing, like, wait, why are we bringing, you know what I mean? And if he's not looking to retire, if you bring him in for retirement, but you could overshadow AJ Styles. I don't see that. I personally think Jericho, unless AEW just doesn't want him anymore, I could see Jericho staying in AEW. I've been saying this for 4+ months now. I'm sticking to it. You know, if WWE brings him back, it's going to be really interesting, but it's not going to, you know, spike any ratings. Maybe for the first appearance, you know, I just don't see it. Just don't see it. My Thanksgiving was good. What we ended up doing was my wife's family. We had a little dilemma. Her family was having dinner at 3:00 and my family was having dinner at 2:00. So my wife went to her house, her parents' house, and I went to my parents' house. And then later on, I picked up my wife from her parents' house and we came home. So spent it with family. Roderick, do I think WWE needs to get away from the War Games concept a bit? Go back to 5-on-5 elimination matches? Yes. I mentioned it earlier in this show. I'm tired of a bloodline-dominated team in War Games. Maybe I would have felt a little bit different about yesterday if they had a 5-on-5. Straight up 5-on-5. Even if you had a little NXT with it. You could have done 5-on-5 on, well, 5-on-5 would have been kind of rough, but plus you didn't have any build-up with NXT, so maybe NXT now. But yeah, I mean, go a little traditional. I mean, you know, the show was very manageable yesterday. You know, that's one thing about WWE shows. I like that they're not very long. They're enough where you can enjoy it and still have a little bit of energy to talk about it after. You want to go rewatch something. You know, you don't feel like, you know, oh, we still got all these matches left. I mean, it does get tiring, even for AEW. You know, let me put it this way. AEW puts on great pay-per-views. And I know a recent Hall of Famer said they're an hour too long, and right away he got ripped apart. This is how I look at AEW pay-per-views. There's a reason why football, baseball, hockey, basketball, tennis don't go 4 or 5 hours. Unless it's, you know, baseball and it goes into extra innings beyond. There's a reason why most sports out there, there's a reason why movies are usually 2 hours long, an hour and a half long. Very, very rare do you get a 3-hour film. You know, it is the abnorm to go long. And it's not like, oh, you know, games could be long. Sure they can. But the point is, there's a reason why almost every form of entertainment is usually about, you know, 90 minutes to 2 hours. You want to go, you know, award shows, 3 hours with commercials. But the body, you know, physically and emotionally is not used to, is equipped. Yeah, any of us could withstand watching wrestling for 5 hours. You know, but the point is when it becomes the regular, it's almost like you feel like you set a bar, and if we only have 8 matches, what's going on? We only had 8 matches. Like, you almost feel like you got to maintain that. And, you know, with all due respect, AEW's last pay-per-view, Full Gear, you could have at least eliminated 3 matches from the main card, and it still might have been 1 match too long. Doesn't mean you can't have 4 and 5 hour pay-per-views once in a blue moon, but when you try to make that the norm, you know, you want your fans to be invigorated and energized all the way to the main event. And I saw people complaining about Jersey, the Jersey fans. Oh, in the end, especially with Monet and Statlander, you know, people are ripping on Jersey fans, and a lot of people are like, I'm fucking tired. You know, when I get out of here, I don't live across the street. I don't just walk downstairs and put on a pair of slippers. I got to fucking take Ubers and fucking get home, and then I got to take a shower because everybody smells like armpits in this arena. You know, you know, the day's not over. Plus, all the time it took for you to get to the place, security check, walking in, getting your seat. You know, it's not fair for people to have to endure 8 hours of that shit when you go live. But people do that. Trust me, I guarantee you there's got to be some people that say, you know what, I would go, but I can't spend 8 hours. You know, an hour and a half getting there, an hour and a half getting back, and fucking 5 hours in the middle. You want a good example? The Mass Maniac, USA Pro Wrestling. I worked for the Mass Maniac. I was at a lot of his shows. I partnered with him in the last ever show in the Elks Lodge. His shows used to be 5 hours long. You go and you check out any old shoot interviews from the 2000s to the 2010s, and you will hear a lot of indie wrestlers, especially in the Northeast, famous wrestlers, Hall of Famers. Oh, Frank Goodman show? No fucking way. 5 hours, 6 hours, you fucking crazy? 20 matches? 10 matches? 15 matches? People would go out of their way. The New Age Outlaws, I remember when they were in Long Island at Sport Time. I was there. And they did a shoot interview right after. They're like, fucking 5 hours. You know, that's what his shows used to be, because he wanted to give every person there a little something. So, Bobby Mean says he would have made Survivor Series traditional 5-on-5 for both the men and the women. It would have been a lot. It would have been a lot to have 2 5-on-5s, but why not have a dark match? Why not have a match while people are getting in the building? I know some people will miss it. Oh, fucking well. Yeah, it's not fair. It's almost like they feel they're disrespecting people if they put on a 5-on-5, you know, like a half hour before the show starts. You know, I agree. You know, yeah, you do 5-on-5 with the men. You got to do 5-on-5 with the women. But, you know, I just feel 4 matches is really getting ridiculous. That's why Royal Rumble, I'm telling you guys, we've talked about this for a couple of years now. Sometime in the next 2 to 3 years, Royal Rumble will be a 2-night event. Maybe 3 years, it'll be a 2-night event. For everybody out there, the women should main event. I have nothing against women main eventing any pay-per-view. We just talked about it last night on the History Show with Sandman and that controversy from 5 years ago. But I get a headache. People online, even yesterday, I absolutely love Io Sky now. Rhea Ripley is awesome. But I got a fucking headache. I wanted to have an aneurysm yesterday when I read people, Rhea and Io, there's no reason why they can't main event night 1. The women, and I'm like, hey, nitwit, you know, there's no storyline right now. Why, they're hugging? Is that the thing now? Brett and Vince, they fucking? Io and Rhea, they hugging? Like, if it's a powerful storyline and it feels like it should close out a WrestleMania, then do it. But to say it fucking 5 months in advance simply because they have a vagina and breasts, you know, they don't realize how ridiculously, moronically stupid they sound. To turn around and say that women should be in the main event because they're women. Are you kidding me? You know, you put people in the main event because it's not that they earned it. Of course they all earned it. But you got to feel, you got to vibe. It feels like that's the right way to go. I remember when they had Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, you know, winning the tag titles against the Usos. And leading up to it, no, the women should main event. The women, even some people reported, my sources tell me that the women are going to main event. And then it didn't happen. And they're like, oh, yeah. No, you remember the storyline and how it dictated? That was the way to go. But I believe within 3 years, the Royal Rumble will be a 2-night event. And for all of these people that talk more about chromosomes than anything else, you'll get your wish. The women will main event night 1. The men will main event night 2. The Royal Rumble match on night 1, Royal Rumble match on night 2. And then you know what would be the next complaint? Oh, why can't the women main event night 2? Why does it always have to be the opening one? Oh, fuck you. Seriously. You're giving me massive agita because you know that's coming. You know that's coming. When they make Royal Rumble, you remember this. Remember this. When they make Royal Rumble a 2-night affair and the women main event night 1, you're going to get these weirdos online that are going to say, oh, why can't the women main event night 2? Why does it always have to be night 1? Why is it? Not JPEG, do I think Jade Cargill is wasting her time with Chelsea Green? No. Look at the overall women's division on SmackDown. You know, it was like B-Fab, Michin, and Zelina Vega. That was the rotation. Chelsea Green, I absolutely love what they're doing with her. Bianca Belair, once she makes a full-time return, then stories will shift very quickly. But no, I don't consider it a waste of time at all. Chelsea Green has done a spectacular job, and you know, I love what they're doing now because Chelsea Green was like the lovable loser when she first came in for a while. Remember that fucking Halloween match where the pumpkin was on her head and she's moving around? It looked like the bad scene from The Naked Gun when he had the pillow on his face. And she's moving like, I can't get this pumpkin off my head. You know, it was like a lovable bad cartoon. Now she's taken more seriously. So I'm fine with it. Totally fine with it. Yeah, Byron, we talked about those 2 reported matches for WrestleMania earlier. You know, everybody's saying that because of what went down at Survivor Series. Way too soon. Way too soon. Way too soon. Theme Parks and Things with Johnny says he sees the usual suspects crapping on Survivor Series, but he loved it. He was there live, and the live audience had a great time. He didn't see anybody disappointed. Honestly, this is my respectful way of addressing those individuals. And I know some of who you're talking about because I saw. Now with ESPN charging $40 and it's not part of your $9.99 thing, I totally think the criticisms are worth more, have more worth to it because of the people at home spending $40. We're back to spending $40. Yeah, but you get all this ESPN content too. I always compare it to going to a buffet. If I want to go and just have an appetizer, or if I'm not really hungry and I just want, something light, you still got to pay $40. Yeah, but I just want coffee and dessert. I want to go to the diner. No, but you still got to pay $40. But you get all this other stuff too, but I don't want all that other stuff. I don't want to watch ESPN. I have no interest in watching ESPN. I signed up 2 months ago and I scoped the channel. I watched the Bo Jackson documentary and the Michael Jordan documentary when he was playing for the Barons, the minor league team. After that, I was like, this sucks. I mean, I remember ESPN Classic in the early 2000s when I used to TiVo everything. And he used to have the classic wrestling, and he used to have all the fucking 70s stuff and all that. And there's none of that now. I don't want to pay $40. So people who are now paying $40 to ESPN complaining, I totally respect more how they feel. If it was $9.99, I'd be like, what do you fucking want for $9.99? It's like you walk into a Starbucks. Like, what do you expect for $10? You're going to get coffee? And you might get a fucking cake pop. But if you have to spend $40 and somebody gives you coffee and a cake pop, you'd be like, where's everything else? Where's my sandwich? So I personally thought Survivor Series was okay yesterday. When it finished, I didn't say it sucked. I didn't say it sucked at all. I thought it was entertaining, but I also feel it was missing something. This is now 2 premium live events in a row that I truthfully believe, I said it at the beginning of the show, I'm not kidding. I'm going to definitely look with plenty of time in advance to see what illegal streams are still out there. Of course I could afford $40. Of course, most of you out there could afford $40. I'd rather take that $40 and fucking spend it on groceries for my family or buy a couple of things for my dogs than fucking put it in TKO's mouth because they want to fucking overcharge everything to satisfy their stockholders and shareholders. Fuck that. You don't need my $40. So that's why I want to get rid of it. And honestly, ESPN, I don't want it. I'll make a prediction. I will make a prediction that down the line, they're going to see a substantial decrease in subscriptions related to WWE, and they're going to offer WWE as a la carte. WWE will once again be a la carte. Don't know when, but it will. It will. I don't want to use a VPN. You know, I don't want to use VPN. Yeah, you could do Netflix and all that. I get it. It's you know what it is? I want to watch Netflix through my Roku. And I've tried VPN services through my Roku and they suck. They absolutely suck. I tried to help a customer. One of my customers, I'll tell you a very quick story. You'll get I swear, I couldn't make this up spur of the moment. Believe me, it's too out there for me to make it up spur of the moment. I have a customer who's in his 60s and he lives with his brother. Brother lives on the second floor. He lives on the first floor. Vice versa. Yeah. So he, wanted Italian TV. So they sell this box that looks like a Roku, and it's just Italian channels. You go on YouTube, you'll see it. I don't remember what it's called, but it's a box where you can watch all Italian TV. So I got the box for him, and then he asked me if Roku had like X-rated channels. And I said, well, there's some underground ones. I said, but it's not that easy to get, and this and that. Then it ends up he shares his account with his brother. And he didn't want his brother to see that he was watching like some of this shit. So I said, just get a VPN on your Roku. This way, you can't see your history. So we were looking for all these VPN services, and every single one I installed, there was either like, $10 here, $15 there. And they were like, just some of them you had to go through like 5 steps. There's a YouTube tutorial, how to watch porn on your Roku and a VPN. And I'm like, I ain't fucking going through all of that. So I told them, I'm like, you can't do it. And it was kind of weird for me to like help a 60-year-old customer, single guy, so he could watch porn. Like, you need me for that? Just fucking watch it on your computer. I even think I might have even said that to him. I even said, just watch it on your computer. Go to Pornhub. I think he even asked me if there was Pornhub for Roku, and I was like, no, there's not. Tristan says, since it's the 20th anniversary of Eddie's passing, what was my all-time favorite Eddie moment? His is the Big Show and, the tampered burrito. My favorite Eddie moment besides winning the championship, just a lot of Los Guerreros stuff. I mean, his match with Ray at Halloween Havoc is still one of my favorites. Still holds up to this day. Eddie Guerrero, it wasn't like individual moments. It was just a lot. I mean, when Eddie was feuding with Ray and he read the storybook in the middle of the ring, just, it's a shame that he passed away, man. It's a shame. He was so beloved. And just to summarize it, a lot of people that are younger don't realize that when he first went to WWE as part of the Radicals, in short order, fans had no interest in Eddie Guerrero. The Eddie sucks chants were loud. And that was, those were piss breaks. That was go away heat. And slowly, he got let go. He came back and slowly he turned it around and he became one of the most beloved people that there is. Believe it or not, I think next week's history show, episode 49, I have highlights of an indie match he had against Loki Caval between the time that he was released. And it's an awesome match. So, yeah, I remember Eddie in Ring of Honor. He was in IWA Mid-South. He wrestled CM Punk, I believe. Wasn't it CM Punk versus Ray versus Eddie? I think it was CM Punk versus Ray versus Eddie, IWA Mid-South. I'm pretty sure that was the match. Eddie, very beloved. And it's nice to see a new generation that fell in love with a guy that they never saw live, whether it's TV or in person. That's when you know that someone is really special. Rocky Red thinks Cena should win his final match versus Gunther. Gunther can take the loss and be fine. TKO would want Cena to go out on top. In DC, as a foreign heel, Dominik Mysterio could say he beat Cena to up his heat. That all is fine and everything, but we have realized that John Cena, this is not about wins and losses now. I mean, I had my share of years with John Cena when he would lose and cut those promos. I remember when Brock Lesnar made one of his infamous returns and destroyed John Cena. It was right after WrestleMania. I don't know if he wrestled The Rock, but I remember Cena was on a rampway all upset that he lost. And the next day he cut a promo on the Raw after WrestleMania. I remember exactly how he said it too. He said, I lost. I lost. Suddenly John Cena turned Southern. I lost. And then he gives his inspirational speech about getting up, and then Brock Lesnar's music hit and beat the fuck out of him. I'm tired of hearing the I lost matches, the speeches. I'm fine with him losing against Gunther. I think Gunther will show a sign of respect. I think there will be a handshake. I think Gunther will actually raise John Cena's arm in the air. Gunther can be human. Gunther can show respect and still on that Monday Night Raw be the asshole that he is. Fans cheer Gunther. If you really pay close attention, fans will pick their moments to cheer Gunther because they know he truly is a consummate professional and respects wrestling, really respects it. And you can't help but admire that. And the fans know he's a heel and he's going to be a heel and he's going to say the things that get under people's skin, but they understand that you're dealing with a top professional. And Gunther getting this victory, I have no issue with it whatsoever. No issue with it whatsoever. We had so many years of Super Cena that having his final loss, it could be very competitive. It'll be respectful. I just hope he doesn't take the sneakers off and leave the sneakers in the ring. You know, I know people leave their boots, but I hope he doesn't do that. I think he could just leave the ring proud, you know, just hugging people, you know, shaking hands as he goes to the back. I don't think you need to have that moment where he leaves everything in there. But remember too, you know, Cena will be back on WWE television. You know, we don't know how long. We don't know if it'll be a whole year or 6 months or whatever it is, but Cena will be on WWE television again. He just will not wrestle. All right, so we're going to wrap this up in about 6 or 7 minutes. Not JPEG, what are the chances of the Knicks winning the finals in 2026? There's been too many years in the past that I thought the Knicks had a legitimate shot, and it didn't go anywhere. The Knicks, you know, it's a toss-up. They looked very good so far. They could get on a hot streak at the right time. They could win. You look at the Major League Baseball season this year. You saw, you know, how some teams were just going deep into the playoffs that you probably were not expecting, like the Blue Jays. And, you know, if somebody gets hot at the right time, never say never. Bob the Builder, thank you, my friend, for the 2-spot. Whatever happened to TV Tracks? Did he pass away? No, I don't. He didn't pass away. It was Adpocalypse that killed his channel. You know, just very briefly, TV Tracks was a YouTube channel. He used to play clips of our shows, Jason Solomons and a few other people. And he got paid very, very well. He made a lot of ad revenue off of our shows. But we also got a lot of new listeners because of TV Tracks. Still to this day, people will say to me, I first learned of your show from TV Tracks. TV Tracks was part of our Patreon family for about a year. He was giving a little bit back to us because he was making ad revenue online. We never asked for a cut. He just was a patron. But when Adpocalypse hit and all the wrestling channels lost ad revenue, he contacted me like 2 days later and he said, listen, I just wanted to tell you I'm going to take a break for a little while. And I knew exactly what happened. The guy spent 40, 50 hours a week for that YouTube channel. That was his income. He would have to listen to everybody's shows, edit the clips out, put it online, put a thumbnail, and that is an insane amount of time. And he would do that. And when he lost all the ad revenue, putting in 50 hours of work to make $50, that's insane. So when he told me that he was going to take a break, I knew exactly what was going on. And I thanked him. And I said, listen, please keep in touch. Don't feel embarrassed. I said, maybe things will turn around in the future. I said, but, I appreciate everything you've done. And he left and he never came back. He never came back. The ad revenue back then is a lot different than what it is now. Trust me, on YouTube, you don't make much money out of super chats, some channel memberships, and, if you clickbait. You think a lot of these people that clickbait do it because it's fun and because they like trolling people? That's the only way to try to attract additional people. And what's ridiculous about it is when you see a lot of these famous people doing that and they're only getting 10 to 20,000 views, how much money do you think they make? $30? Like me, I'd rather lose $30 than lose my credibility. And there's only so many times you could do that. Some people's channels have lost half their viewers. So, unfortunately, ad revenue is very, very small. And, you do videos that only put a couple of thousand views, there's almost no ad revenue coming in. So YouTube doesn't take 40%. That's a little bit much, but they do take a decent cut. And Bob says he misses Kev, still feels surreal. It does. I mean, it was a wake-up call for me, health-wise, take shit a little bit more seriously, which I am trying to do. It's awful. It's sad. I can't believe he's gone. It's already been 7 months, almost 8 months. And it's sad, man. It's really sad. I will tell you, as I put up some of the old shows, it does put a smile on my face to still hear him. It's not the same, obviously. And it's just a stark reminder that any of us could go at any time. Any of us could go at any time, man. But, it's a shame. It's a shame. I will tell you, I am so thankful that we came back as a duo in 2024. I can't tell you how many people, including his family members, who said you couldn't even write this as a movie. We were debating on getting back together for a little while, doing a couple of special episodes here and there. But when we decided to come back full-time in 2024, we really were looking to blow it up again. And unfortunately, he had more health issues than I did that would affect, a lot of what he wanted to do. And unfortunately, he would pass away. But I am just very thankful that not only I got to do 20 years with him, but to return as a duo. That it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I'll always keep the DTKC vibe. Me, I never change my attitude. I grow and I mature and I change some of my views over the years. But, meaning what you say and saying what you mean, whether people want to hear it or not, not being afraid to call someone out, not being afraid to address people, give them credit where they deserve it and give them criticism when they deserve it too. Unfortunately, there are too many people out there that do not do that. And that's something that'll never change with me. That's something that was true to Kev, that was true to me. And when I always write, the DTKC spirit, that vibe will never change. Even if down the line, if I get another co-host, which I don't know, I'm not looking and I'm not planning. It could happen. Maybe it doesn't happen. But if it does happen, it'll never change my style and, you know, what we did over those years. So, plus there's too many of you that still support what I do that were around, you know, going way back when. I don't know many shows out there that have a loyal friendship family. Because you notice, you know, I'll leave you all with this. I'm going to go off the air with this. I'll leave you all with this. You have never, maybe 3 times, 4 times in 20 years, you've never heard me call you fans. To me, I'm not worthy to have fans. And I'm not just saying that to be cheesy. Kev was the same thing. You all are family. All right. Yeah, some of you may just be distant cousins and that I never ever met, but we never ever called you guys fans. It was always family. You know, we're not, you know, that big to have fans, fan club. You know, and I will always continue that. That's why even like when I do the shout outs and everything, you know, it's the Donzilla Army, it's the Castle Comrades, it's family. Our DTKC family. It's been like that since the late 90s, and that'll never change. So, you know, even though we may not over the years have interacted with each and every one of you out there, you best as well know that we never talked at you. We talked to you. That is the big difference. You see a lot of shows out there, they talk at you. They put stuff out there, whether you listen or not, they put that stuff out there. But we talk to you, not at you. There is a very big difference. And that's a style that, you know, we were maybe even the originators, you know, as far as wrestling shows go. But that'll never change. That'll never change. So with that, I'm going to jet for tonight. Tomorrow night, right after Raw, I will be live on our Discord channel, dtkcdiscord.com. And we'll see. We'll see if we get the reveal on Raw. If it is Austin Theory, we'll see what else comes out of it. We'll see if they're going to milk Braun Breaker and CM Punk all the way to next year. Maybe give us a little taste of it now. Not saying it's going to happen in Saturday night's main event, but, you know, let's see where this goes from here. Definitely an important win for Braun Breaker. CM Punk loses no credibility, obviously. And then we got to see, what do you do with AJ Lee next? What's next for AJ Lee? A lot of people want to see her go at it with Roxanne Perez. A lot of people want to see her stick around a little bit. What's next for Maxine Dupree? There's a lot of stuff. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But for tonight, I bid you farewell. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I'll catch you all on the next one. By the way, next week we'll start giving you some updates as far as what we're going to do in 2026. I will tell you we are going to bring back the mailbag. The email address, dontony@dontony.com, will be reactivated. And we will do some episodes where we do some mailbag at the very end, like a lot of other shows. We used to do that too, but it got a little bit played for a while. There's a few things we're planning, but I'll definitely catch you all in the next one. Much love. I'll talk to you all again soon. Be well.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.